in the seeking journey, as one finds themselves asking questions like, who am I? Or what is this life about? Why is this existence created the way it is? And if one is lucky enough, they may come across a framework or a teaching that helps them go deeper into the questions themselves until they fall away. And in this seeming journey, one of the most useful or one of the most important pointers is honestly asking ourselves, what is it that I'm really looking for? It seems like I'm not happy. It seems like I'm not content. It seems like something in me is constantly looking for something. What is that? Can I truly undo the layers of story, undo the layers of my own expectations of this journey or of myself? My own fixation of wanting to fix myself, to get rid of the things that I don't like about myself or don't like about life. Is it possible to really see through those layers and actually admit to myself, what is it that I'm really looking for? In my immediate experience, not some teaching or some concept that can be given through a book or a framework or a teacher. My own raw, immediate answer. And it could be anything. And when the answer happens, when the answer comes, curiously, openly, with an open mind, with an openness, if we can really try and understand what the answer really means, what would it look like? So if, let's say, the answer comes back to be, let's say, unconditional love. And then can I ask myself, what is unconditional love? What does it really mean? Does it mean that I don't perceive anything without love or outside of love? So then the question becomes, then what is love? What does it even mean to see life, to perceive life from a place of love. What is this word, love? And then an answer may be exposed of what it really means, what love really means. And let's say in this case, love comes back as an experience of coming from a place of no judgment, no hatred, no resentment, no blame, absence of all of those arisings or feelings is what feels like maybe that's unconditional love. So if that's really what I'm looking for, am I meeting my own suffering with unconditional love? Or am I trying to shove it down? Or am I trying to suppress it? Or am I afraid of it? Or am I trying to reject it, trying to fix it? And is any of those movements out of unconditional love? What does unconditional even mean? It's like no conditions applied, no asterisk on whatever arises. Anything and everything that arises is included within that unconditionality. Is it possible within my immediate experience to meet everything, however unloving it may feel, to meet all of that with unconditional love? In this teaching, in this framework, it's an important concept where they say that what we're really looking for is continuous, unbroken peace of mind in daily living, which is another way of saying end of suffering or falling away of suffering. So what we're really looking for is end of suffering. And when the suffering self, the separate self, the psychological construct that has taken on the identity of a seeker and listens to these concepts so diligently, wanting to do seeking and wanting to reach the end of seeking. So when that mechanism listens to this concept, the only way it can respond to that information, to that concept, is by becoming a suffering ninja or a suffering watchman who's like, oh, there's suffering, shove it down. There's suffering, cut it off. And even though at a certain point that's needed, when the suffering is so overwhelming, it might be useful and even healthy to see through it and just drop it and stop it through whatever means are available in that moment. And at a certain point, let's just question ourselves. What is end of suffering? What does it even mean? What does it look like when there is no suffering? And that begs the question, what is suffering? What would end when we say end of suffering? Suffering is this deep-rooted undercurrent of feeling that something's not quite right. This undercurrent of avoidance, undercurrent of wanting to run away or wanting to avoid, that need to fix life or fix myself or fix the other, fix the situation, fix this or that. Because it is only then that it'll be okay. So suffering is this deep-rooted belief, feeling that something's not okay already, like something needs to be fixed for it to be okay. And the absence of that undercurrent through which life is lived, that undercurrent can fall away. And when that suffering itself takes in this concept that suffering can fall away, it obsesses over suffering, which is just more suffering on top of the suffering. To the suffering self, it is so counterintuitive to understand or even make sense of that meet your suffering from a place of surrender, from a place of acceptance. It's like, well, why would I meet something that's a problem with acceptance? Because that the end of the problem is where acceptance lies. If I accept the problem, how will it ever end? I want the end of the problem. And that's the paradox. Is it possible to not reject the suffering that's already here? Is it possible to be okay with all the, call it flaw, call it weaknesses, call it illness, call it dysfunction, call it suffering? Is it possible to be okay with what is, even if it is heavy, even if it is not pleasant, even if it is uncomfortable? And now when the suffering self would hear this concept, it'll be like, it'll either question that, well, of course, like, how can I accept? Because if I accept, then how will the work on it happen? Or it'll just run with that concept and take it intellectually where it has a headache and it'll be like, you know what? I'm okay with the headache, so I'm not going to take a painkiller. I'm not going to go see a doctor. I'm just okay with the headache. And both of those movements have missed the point. What does it really mean to accept the suffering, or to not reject the suffering, or to be okay with the not okayness in the system? That is where the realization that whatever is the flow of life, arisings within or without, they're impersonal. They're not me, neither are they mine. Nothing's happening for me or against me, in favor of me. It is all an impersonal unfolding, including the very suffering that I'm so obsessed about. The suffering itself is the mechanism of taking it all personally. And that's why the wisdom teachings that say that the person does not exist is pointing to the recognition that all of this is impersonal, however personal it may seem to be. So when suffering arises in this moment, let's say a circumstance happens and a sense of abandonment shows up. Surrendering to the arising of that suffering mechanism neither means that I act out of that sense of abandonment, nor it means that I ignore it. It is exactly like doorbell rings, I answer the door, and abandonment's there. There is neither a movement to just like leave, I'm not interested in you, and nor there is a movement to say, oh, welcome, come, let's have a cup of tea. My very lack of interest in interfering, in trying to even navigate or fix or investigate in that very sense of abandonment that's here, is what it means to not come from a place of rejection. Because my energy flowing towards or against what has arisen is already the very rejection of what is here, because I have already identified it as a problem, and now I'm either sucked into it or resisting it. So any movement coming from these intentions is already a proof that what has arisen, abandonment in this scenario, is taken to be an attack on who am I, on who I am. And now I'm ready to use my armor to deal with it. Coming from a place of acceptance doesn't need any armor, doesn't need any tools or practices or any to-do lists. It's here, it's unpleasant. It plays its part in the body, it moves, sometimes as a storyline, sometimes as a feeling, sometimes in the body as a pain. Whatever needs to happen to regulate can happen. And yet the background, the very base of all of that going on is a knowing that it's all okay. There's nothing wrong going on here. It's just what is, as the flow of life, as God's will, as predestined. These are different labels that are used to basically make a point that there is no need to get involved. There's no need to even get involved in the involvement that is already going on with the suffering. And that already is what acceptance looks like. Acceptance is not an active bracing or active compassion that may be felt towards the arising. Acceptance basically is just an absence of non-acceptance. It can be ordinary that it goes unnoticed until there is non-acceptance, and then one can compare and contrast. Oh, like non-acceptance is here, and before that non-acceptance wasn't there, so that was acceptance. And in the same way, when these concepts of accept yourself as you are, they may sound very romantic in a way, and they can even be taken on by this separate psychological self as, oh, I accept me as I am. So with all my tantrums and all my anger and all my, accept me as in, don't tell me to change, or you got to deal with my outbursts without reacting. And if you're reacting, then you're not accepting me as I am. And that's just a very surface level understanding of what it really could mean. If there were truly an acceptance to who I am, exactly as I am, there shall be no need to be right out there, to make a point and prove a point out there. There won't be a need to let anyone else down, because there will already be an acceptance of who I am within. So validation out there won't be needed anymore. So what the other thinks of me, believes, whether what I say or not, believes it or not, whether makes fun of me, insults me, has nothing to do with me. Because none of that could trigger a sense of rejection or a sense of invalidation within me because there is a sense of acceptance within me already. So what is there to reject when it's all not rejected? That reminds me of a story from the time of Buddha, where he was just walking past a village with his disciples. And at that time, there were many young boys, young men in their 20s or, um, yeah, probably 20s, who had given up the worldly life and had taken on monkhood and become his disciples. So um, there were many families, parents that were hurt by that and that felt that they lost their sons to this man called Buddha and they did not understand the teaching. So there was a lot of opposition also within those villages around. So he was just walking past with his disciples, and an angry father came um, came in front of the Buddha, and Buddha being his equanimous embodiment that he has known to be. And he spat on his face. The father just spat on his face and was super angry, insulted him, well, intended to insult him. And Buddha just wiped off his face, smiled, and carried on. And one of the disciples obviously had a question about that and asked, it's like, Master, why didn't you react? He insulted you in front of everybody and you didn't react. And when there is no sense of rejection within, what anybody else does towards us, even if it is with the ill intention, has nothing to do with us. That always already is the case, but we get triggered because we already are rejecting some part of ourselves, which may not even be conscious. And when somebody else triggers that, it feels like it's their fault that we feel this way. And if you're wondering what the Buddha say, what did Buddha say to that question? It's like, why didn't you react? He insulted you. I'm trying to remember what the answer was, but it was somewhere in the terms of, because I remember how that story made me feel. I exactly don't remember what the words were in that story. So if the words come to me, I'll share. But basically, what I remember from that story and his answer was that what the other did was about him. Now, what I do will be about me. So I just wipe my face off and move on. There's another story that somehow relates to this, another Zen story, where there were two monks and they were obviously following the precepts and the rules of the monkhood to be on that path. So they were celibates and they were not allowed to be with women and to meet women or spend time with women. So they were walking through a path and there was a river to be crossed. And there was a woman standing there, not sure how to cross it. The level of the river was quite high and it was quite racy. The water was quite dynamic. And the woman asks for help from the monks that, would you please help me cross the river? I need to get home before it gets dark. So one of the monks, obviously in his mind, he was like, no, this is not allowed. I cannot do it. And he refused. And the other monk just picked up the lady, walked through the river, and then let her off. The lady thanked the monk, went off, and both of those monks started walking again. But the first monk, looking at that, was so full of rage and anger. And basically, what it was jealousy that how did he do that? He crossed his, he didn't honor his vow, not the right thing to do. And he was just furious. So the other monk realized, looked back and asked, it was like, are you okay? And the first monk said, no, I'm not. How could you do that? It's clearly written in the vows that you're not supposed to um, touch a woman or hold them. And you did that. And it looks like it doesn't even affect you. You were just walking past as if nothing happened. And the other monk smiled, looked at the first monk and said, well, I let off the lady way before, right by the shore of the river. It looks like you're still holding her. So in this sense, just coming back to what we were talking about, the suffering self will take on a wisdom concept and turn it into an interpretation or an understanding where it will want to believe that, oh, I got it. And then it'll start acting on it, all the way not realizing that that itself is the suffering. So is it possible to not take charge of seeking anymore? To be willing to let go of being in charge, of figuring this out, whatever this is, figuring life out, figuring this relationship out, figuring seeking out, figuring out how to be enlightened. Is it possible to just let that go? It's okay if it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened yet, even with me being in charge. Let's just try another way. The way of not trying anymore. The way of not trying anymore. And now, if my mechanism, that separate self, listens to that, now it'll try to not try. And that's the catch. It's never ending. And yet, it's possible in this moment. Right here in this moment, it is possible to just drop it. Drop this whole quest of whatever that answer was in the beginning. What am I really looking for? Whatever it is that I'm really looking for, let's just drop it. Let the looking happen. We don't need to know how the looking is happening, where to find, what to make of what's found. It's okay. It's okay to not understand that. There's another wisdom concept that says what you're seeking for is already seeking you. Which in bhakti terms is mentioned as your desire to meet God, to be one with God, is already God's grace. What does that even mean? What does that mean? The very point of these concepts is to land in a way where we can just let ourselves relax, knowing that if there is seeking going on, what is being sought after is already from where the seeking is arising. So the one from where the seeking has arisen, let it end the seeking also. And what do I, the seeker, do in the meantime? How about nothing? Only if it's possible. And when I say nothing, even when I find myself obsessively doing something or trying to do nothing, is it possible to just do nothing about that either? Just let it happen. Accepting that which is not acceptable either. And let's just see where it takes us. Where it may take us is right here, where there is no need for any effort. There's no need of any seeking. There's no need. The very concept of needing is irrelevant. Nothing needs to be retained. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be figured out. And yet, the retaining, the remembering, the figuring out all still happens despite of us. Let's open up the space for any conversations that you may feel to have. You can raise your electronic hand on Zoom and I can unmute you. Anything and everything that is spoken about here is just a concept. And I feel to put that disclaimer out, especially for the seeking self, so it doesn't take any of those concepts as absolute truth and use it as another belief without investigating into the validity of that concept. Because that would be the opposite to what the concepts are meant for. Isabel.
Hi, Gerlene.
Hi, Isabel. How are you?
Well, a little warm, but it's fine. It's very warm in Paris. I have two questions for you. One question is about what you were saying at the beginning of this satsang about thoughts. And I'm always surprised when thoughts are just arising, but they can be constantly the same, and then disappear and then come again. And sometimes those thoughts could be annoying. I mean, because you don't have any, when you know the concepts that you are talking about, there is just the acceptance of those thoughts coming. But then it's sometimes annoying to see that they always come up. And then there is a concept that says that until you don't have answered the problematic of the question, it will come again and again until it's resolved. So is that just another concept, or how can you deal with that? I don't know if I'm clear.
No, yes, and I'll rephrase it also, just to make sure I'm not missing anything that you asked. And if I did, just feel free to add. So what I'm hearing is that the arising of thoughts, sometimes there's a pattern to them, and sometimes they're just random. And sometimes those thoughts can come with, or maybe are followed with, a sense of feeling annoyed because they are maybe the same thoughts on the loop. And then you're talking about a practice or a mechanism and which says that until those thoughts are looked at, and then what is underneath them and where they're coming from, they will keep arising.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. So yes, there is definitely a validity to that concept, I would say. Because initially what happens is that there might be so many, like there might be such a storm inside in the form of thoughts or overthinking, that it is useful to just go uh, like cold turkey on them. It's like not even care about what's arising. You just are at a place where it might be useful to regulate yourself, or just come to a place of witnessing and not worry about what's there on the screen as thoughts or patterns. And then once there is enough space in the system that what's arising can be looked at from a place of grounding and not from a place of, fear, or a place of wanting to fix it because it is such a big problem, but it can just arise from a place of a grounding where it's just like a mother looking at a baby, that the baby's hungry and it needs to be fed. So it's not coming from a place of anything other than just being open to what's needed and being available for that. So yes, it might be a good idea that if there is a certain pattern of thoughts that are arising again and again, so there might be a signal that, oh, like this is coming out of, let's say, rejection. So like victimhood, let's say. So the thoughts may arise where it may feel like that, oh, there is the victim mentality again, or there's the victim thought again. And the thoughts in themselves are not holding any quality. It is our own identification with them that give them the juice. So looking at the material of the thoughts or the patterns itself is basically a way to be open to see our own relationship with them. So some thoughts are annoying, or feel problematic because there's something in the system that attaches to those content of thoughts as the way they do. So let's say in this case as victimhood. So there's something in the system which is held on to as a belief that I am a victim, that these thoughts catch our attention and take us away with them, in a sense. So yes, it is a good idea to then look at those thoughts as a signal that, oh, look at that. Here I am believing myself to be a victim again. And then that's it. Awareness is enough.
Mm.
And then next time what happens, there might be less involvement. Because the moment the awareness is enough, because sometimes awareness is not enough, and now I found it, I have to fix it, I have to write about it, I have to talk about it. All of that can happen. And then there may come a time in the grounding within ourselves where just awareness is enough. It's like, oh, look at that. And that's it. And, oh, look at that. And that's it. Oh, look at that again. And that's it. Like nothing needs to happen after that. And what may happen then, the same thoughts may still arise, and yet the annoyance linked with those thoughts can become weaker and weaker and weaker. And then it may suddenly become funny, and then suddenly they're not even funny anymore. And then who knows, maybe those thoughts stop arising.
And for the one is the I am a thought.
It can be. It can be a thought for sure. And it can be such a strong thought that one can believe it to be an experience of the I am. And yet, the impersonal sense of I am, which cannot be labeled actually, which is always here and within which the very thought I am also arises, it itself is very, you can almost say it is tangibly different from a thought. Because within that, as that impersonal sense of I am, all the thoughts can be seen to be arising, to be playing, and to be morphing into something else or falling away. And it is very experientially confirmable. And that confirmation, experiential confirmation in itself, can come back as a thought or a concept in words that I am speaking right now, as that the I am itself experientially is not a thought. And yet, what I'm saying is just a concept.
So even I am is a concept.
The way we are talking about it, yes. Until it is recognized for itself. That recognition in itself won't be conceptual, but the talking about it is a concept.
Yes. Okay. Okay, I understand. Thank you, Garin.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions, Isabel. So good to see you. Thank you, everyone, for the satsang today. Until next Sunday. Love you all. Thank you.